Namaskar and good afternoon and welcome to uh, this inaugural session of the audio visual certificate course being offered by the Department of English, Ramakrishna Mission, Vidya Mandira, Belur Math. Uh, this is a historic moment for us at the Department of English because this is the first skill-based certificate program that we have offered, and we hope in future to be able to provide students with still more, many more such skill-based certification certificate programs, which will help them uh, get employment or at least fill up their CVs. I now request Srimat Swami Mahapragyanandaji Maharaj, Principal, Ramakrishna Mission Vidya Mandira, Belur Math, to say a few words.
Thank you, Dr. Sudeep Bhattacharya, who is the head Department of English in our college. So, first of all, I would like to congratulate Dr. Bhattacharya and all other faculty members of the Department of English for initiating such a wonderful certificate course. The name of this course is Certificate Courses in Audio Visual Media Editing. Since we know the impact of media is immense, and right from the genesis of this media in history of human civilization in different forms, this impact or the significance can't be denied. Right now, in this moment, in this juncture, we see fascinating types of media before us. And amongst these several media, perhaps the most impactful and the most influential by which we can reach the common people, mass to celebrity, is this audio-visual media. And Ramakrishna Mission Vidya Mandira always played a very crucial role regarding introduction of many such unique courses and programs for the enrichment of the students of this institution as well as the students of other institutions. And today, in this very inaugural session, we are very happy to have Srimati Monideepa Banerjee. So, Monideepa Banerjee has become very familiar face and the name across the country with a depth and insightful reporting on West Bengal and the Northeast on NDTV for nearly last 3 decades. We all know her. This January, we know that she has moved from NDTV to explore the new opportunities in journalism. A career she set off on last 40 years ago with the Telegraph newspaper, soon after graduating from Lady Babun College with honors in English literature. And Monideepa is now recipient of many scholarships, of which this American Fulbright Fellowship, which enable her to study journalism in UK and the US for considerable periods of time. But her most enriching experience, she says, have come from reporting from the ground, from the people, and their stories of endurance, love, and longing for better tomorrow, a better world. So we are very happy, we are honored to have such a person with us in this session, and especially I fervently hope today in this our first day of journey that this certificate course will be very successful. And my suggestion to the students who have already enrolled, many are there from our institute and many from other different institutes and from different walks of life. I would like to request all the students or all the person who enrolled that you be with this and try to be very particular in this program, and definitely you will be enriched, you will be benefited. Once again, I congratulate Dr. Sudip Bhattacharya and our Department of English for such a wonderful initiative. And on behalf of Vidya Mandir Paribar, we heartily welcome Munideepa Banerjee in this session. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Swamiji. Uh, just in order to add a little to what Swami Mahapragyanandaji said, let me tell you that we still have some seats available, and uh, you will find the necessary link in the description to this YouTube uh, broadcast. And all you have to do is to click that link, and that will take you to our website where you will get all necessary information to enroll. I urge you not to miss this wonderful opportunity. Uh, Before we move on, let me see if Swami Shastragyanandaji Maharaj is here. Hello, hello. Can you hear me? No, I think he still cannot access us. Uh, so now we have the keynote address by someone whom I certainly grew old. You know, seeing her on NDTV, and she was always there with this mic held in her hand, with this microphone held in her hand at some of, I think, the worst trouble spots ever,
Right.
right? And so I request Ms. Monideepa Banerjee to give us her keynote address.
Thank you, Dr. Sudip Bhattacharya, and of course, my regards to Swami Mahapragyananda, who I have had the good fortune of meeting about a year and a half ago, I think, and everyone else who is putting this YouTube together so that students of your institution, students of other institutions, their parents, concerned parents, other teachers, they can all sort of listen into it sometime or the other and perhaps get some inspiration on the way forward. It is an honor to be a keynote speaker here today at the launch of this 30-hour online certificate course that Ramakrishna Mission Vidya Mandir is offering. It is an honor because, it is not something I've ever done before. And I feel a great sense of responsibility because, I'm actually addressing young students, youngsters with big dreams in their eyes and big aspirations in their eyes. At the end of today, at the end of this session, I hope those dreams will be bigger and the aspirations higher. Now, ideally, and I'm sure Swamiji will agree with me, that education, I would hope, would be for education's sake, for the growth of the mind, the character, the intellect, something that will make young students persons of integrity and sincerity in everything that they do in life. Education, I think, and in my time, I do think it was so, education must be a character builder. But for many years now, education has also stopped being only that. It has now, unfortunately, I think, primarily become a means to an end. And the end is getting a job, earning a salary, and living. For some, it is hand to mouth, and for others, happily ever after. I wish all your students the latter, a life that is lived happily ever after. But I wish actually much, much more. I wish the students are imbued with a spirit of adventure, a spirit of entrepreneurship, a spirit of a willingness to take risks, to strike out on their own, to achieve all that they are capable of to their full potential. To do that, you need the character and knowledge that education imparts. But in this real world, you also need skills. And which is why, I'm very happy to be here to deliver this keynote address on the launch of this online course that the English department of RK Mission Vidya Mandir is offering. I have great expectations of this particular course. It is a course, I think, that is designed to arm students with skills that will give them an extra edge when they go to the job market. The skill to use words, pictures, and sounds to maximum effect. These are skills that are at a premium worldwide today. Skills in demand in the arena of journalism, of course, whether print, TV, digital, or whatever, but much beyond. I don't know how many of you have seen the latest super or the Spider-Man film. Just recently we had this wonderful Spider-Man film. My daughter insisted I go with her and see it, and it was wonderful. It was wonderful. I loved it. But at the end of it, I was about to get up and leave the hall when I think my shoe fell into the row in front of me. I was sitting on this row of seats, and my shoe slipped off and fell into this row in front. And I couldn't retrieve it while so many people were trying to leave the hall. So I sat down and I waited. And as a result, I ended up watching the credits, where they, after the movie is over, they show you the name of the hero, the heroine, the producer, the director, the makeup artist. And that kept scrolling up on this huge screen. And suddenly, I sat up and noticed a whole lot of Indian names. There were a lot of them were South Indian names, Bengali names, names that felt like they were Malayali surnames, all over. And there were, North Indian names, all kinds of Indian names in a huge number were suddenly scrolling up that screen of credits for Spider-Man. And I was taken aback. And I did a little research and found that all the amazing Hollywood films that we see with phenomenal, special effects, much of it is done here in India. I believe in places like Hyderabad, Chennai, and Bangalore. But, Hollywood sort of gives these jobs to be done to Indian graphic artists who are fantastic at the job. Sure, these graphic artists may have been trained in computers and animation and special graphics, but primarily what these graphic artists learned to do was play around with pictures and sounds. And the course that you are offering at RK Mission Vidya Mandir is exactly that. I hope and think and believe that you teach these students who will take this course how to deal with words, sounds, and pictures, because that is the area of growth in future in this world today, in this 21st century. This 21st century certainly is going to be a very visual century. We are already seeing it happening. And training in these skills is something that will never let you down. I want to go back a bit, how I wish that I had some of the skills. I had some skill development course when I first joined the job market myself. After I took my Part 2 exams, and if you must know, that was back in 1982, I wasn't sure what I wanted to do next. For some reason, I started studying German at the Ramakrishna Mission in Gold Park. I have no idea why I picked German, but I did. And so I used to go there and study it 3 days a week or some such thing. The other thing I did was I set out to learn typing. Now, don't ask me why. I mean, never in my wildest imagination did I think I would be a stenotypist or any such thing. I had no such ambitions, but I decided to learn typing because some friend in my housing colony was going. And so I went along every morning to St. Jude's. This is on Lindsay Street, just opposite Newmarket. So I'd get up early in the morning and head off there and learn to type this panagram. The quick brown fox jumps over the lazy dog. That is that one sentence which uses, I think, all 36 alphabets. So in the morning, I used to get up, go to class, and learn how to type. Never for a minute thinking that, this skill is ever going to come in useful to me, ever. But soon after, my first job with the Telegraph newspaper, which had just been born, by the way. Telegraph was born in July of 1982. I joined in November of 1982. And I was a sub editor on the news desk. Now, I had no idea how a newspaper came out or what my job requirement would be. And those were days when there were no computers, remember? No computers at all. And we used to get news reports on teleprinters and telex machines. And telex copies looked like, well, telegrams, which is again something that is completely alien perhaps to this generation of WhatsApp. But, that's how we used to get it: telex machines, teleprinters, and, faint copies that we would need to sit and work on and clean up and type out. And suddenly my skills with the typewriter were in huge demand. Nobody else knew how to type. Not too many people did actually. Some of the reporters knew how to type, but nobody on the desk knew how to type. And there I was, really typing, and quite fast. My speed picked up in no time. So, there were these famous journalists. I think that was the high point. Very famous journalists of those days. Say somebody called Anita Pratap, for instance. She used to be the Telegraph's reporter in Chennai, and she had gone to Sri Lanka during all the problem there with the Tamil Tigers. So, how would she communicate her copy? She would somehow get to a telephone and call up office. And because I had typing skills, I would sort of put the phone to my ear. She would dictate her copy, and I could take it down. That little bit of skill development that I did get back in 1982, the skill of typing, that came in so useful at times like this. But again, when in 1990 I switched to television, I had no skills at all. I had no idea what one end of a camera looked like from another. I didn't know which button you had to press to shoot, which was the lens, which was the body. I mean, it was all very, very alien. I remember, this was a magazine, a video news magazine called India View. And you may remember the better ones, the names of the better ones that were out already. One was News Track, and that was by the India Today group. Then there was another one called Eyewitness by Hindustan Times. And then there was this third group, the Dalmia group, who brought out India View. It was a video news magazine, and they would package video stories and bring out a video once a month, which you could put into your VCR and play and see what's happening. It was fantastic at that time in 1990-91. It was revolutionary. But, it is something I had no idea how to do. The company was Delhi based, and I was appointed over here. And they told me, okay, you can go to this studio and they will give you the technical support. But that's all I knew about television at the time. So my first assignment, I remember, was to interview Shulgat Roy. He was then Congress, of course, a very senior MLA at that time. So the first day I went to interview him, I went to the studio. I asked I asked the studio, "Are we ready to go?" They said, "Yes, sure. Where is the tape?" I said, "What tape?" I had no idea. So it seems that I was supposed to carry a tape. Why would a camera need a tape? I mean, I was really confused. Anyway, they all very, so they were all very sympathetic. They all, realized I had no knowledge. And they helped me along, and we went off to Shogata Roy's house in Lake Gardens, the same house where he is now. And we did this interview in his little lawn. The interview was 40 minutes long. It was too long. And remember, at that time, cameras were not like this. Today I can go with my phone and do an interview with Shogata Roy or anybody else. But those days, there were these huge cameras, and there was a separate sound unit. So the audio was recorded separately. And then all these cameras could not work in low light. So there were lots of light. So there would be a couple of, there would be a cameraman, there would be a sound recordist, and there would be a light man and a light man, and there would be lights. And we would all get into this car and go. Very, very different from now, when you have reporters buzzing around on their motorcycles with just this phone, a little stand, maybe a mic, maybe not. It's very, very different. But those days, when I was just getting into this profession with no training whatsoever, I ended up going to Shogata Roy's. His interview passed off peacefully. It was 40 minutes long, too long. I wouldn't do a 40-minute interview of anyone today if I could help it. And then my next person was Jyotin Chakraborty. Again, the generation of students I'm talking to, they won't know who he was. You will know, I know, Swamiji and Dr. Bhattacharya. But Jyotin Chakraborty was this leftist leader, very interesting, short person who used to smoke cheroots and full of interesting conversation. So I went to his house, and this was in Koraya police station area, just near the police station. Went to this government housing complex, and he was there, very excited that he was going to be interviewed for television, and he was all dressed up for the occasion. So I walk in on Jyotin Chakraborty wearing this beautiful silk kurta in this tiny house, where fitting in a cameraman, a light man, an audio man, light stands, camera stand was a struggle. Anyway, we start off the interview, and interview is going fine, but suddenly there is a blast. It's like literally an explosion. And I think poor Jyotin Chakraborty thought that it was an assassination attempt. But basically, what had happened is the light had burst. The lights today are something else, that we use. They are cold lights. But those days, we used to use something called a sun gun, which was very, very crude. And because the sun gun had been on for a long time, it just exploded, and the pieces of glass showered on Jyotin Chakraborty's beautiful kurta and punched it full of holes. It was a terrible experience. It was and I don't think Jyoti Chakraborty expected anything like this. And I somehow got through that first day. But how I wish today that things had been different in my time, and that I had learned some skills before I got on the job. Those days, things were very different. And I'm sure I'm not the only one who blundered through the first few days. People were allowed to make mistakes and learn on the job. But today, it's cutthroat. It's absolute cutthroat. And I suspect that if this, light exploded and a shower of glass fell and injured a politician, I could well be charged with attempted murder or some such thing. I'm joking, but still, days were different then. We were allowed to make mistakes. The company lived with it, so did people, but no more, not today. Times have changed. And I'm therefore very, very happy that Ramakrishna Mission Vidya Mandir has taken it upon itself to give students a leg up with this online course, which will be taught by the best professionals in the business. I mean, Dr. Bhattacharya has been telling me all the people who will be participating in it, and I know most of them, including, of course, Jayanta Ghoshal, who is an extremely well-known journalist, and extremely talented people will be teaching the course. So it will be very, very useful to anybody who decides to participate. Now, what is, however, something that teachers will have to look out for is how much the youngsters know already today. I'm saying this because in the last few months that I have been out of NDTV, moved on from there. In the last few months, I have been, taking workshops and classes at journalism schools. And I am just completely taken aback at how much these children already know. It is as if this generation of students, they were born with the mouse in their hands. And for them, things like, editing photos, photoshopping, editing video, editing audio, all that somehow is something they're born with. They seem to know all of it. So at times I have had to step back and, think, oh my God, what can I add, value add for students like this? I mean, 10 years ago, the students were different. They didn't know, the exposure wasn't there. But today, the students are virtually born with the mouse in their hands and the internet antennas in their heads, and they seem to know everything. So, teachers of this course will have to sort of first gauge what is it that the students know and how they can value add. I promise the teachers it will be challenging because I've sort of been through it and I know that that is what happens these days. But what I decided at that point of time when I was feeling very challenged to teach these students was that, it's like the students know the craft of it all. They know how to do this and how to tweak that and how to upload a picture, how to do it right, get down the size. They know the resolution issues and all that stuff. So that craft is already with them. What they need help from people with experience at work like us. I sound very stuffy when I say that, but it's a fact that experience gives you a completely different perspective on things. So what we can help these students to do is hone these skills, the craft that they have acquired already on their own, to hone that into an art, so that they can use the crafts appropriately. The knowledge seems to be missing on how to use the crafts that they know and they have learned on their own. So the role of the teachers in this really would be to impart knowledge, impart the theories behind it, to mold their craft into art, give them that finish they need to bear the stamp of a professional. I have every confidence that this particular course being offered will do that. And they will be life altering lessons. It is, um, and when I say life altering, again, I'm going to give you an example from my own life. Like when I went to the UK to study radio and television journalism, I had already been in NDTV for about 2, 3 years. So I had learned the basic craft. I knew how to put things together. Okay, but when I went there and I put up a show reel of all my reports, there was a professor who told me that Monideepa, your stuff is great, but you are not writing to pictures. Writing to pictures. Now, I almost have come to hate this term, but that's the biggest learning I had. And this is the kind of teaching that has to be done in this online course. Writing to pictures is like, when you have an audio visual situation, you are seeing a piece of audio visual, you know, how do you write to it? You don't write like if I'm seeing the Prime Minister speaking from Red Fort, what do I write in my copy? I already have the picture. The Prime Minister is standing at, the Red Fort and speaking on Independence Day. What do I write? I can't say that the Prime Minister is speaking at Red Fort on Independence Day. That's that's not what audiovisual is about. I can't write what is already showing in the pictures. I have to write something to it. Like, I'd probably say that in a, I'd have to say something else. Like, it has to be different. So that was a craft that I was taught out in the UK, and that has been a life lesson. Today, when I sit down to write something, unless I can visualize it, unless I can see the picture, I cannot write. So that has to be the challenge, that not only do you learn a skill of how to write a script or how to edit a picture, but you actually it sort of changes your worldview, your life view, and the way you do anything. So writing to picture was one of those things. The other thing that is almost a disease is because of my stint at the Telegraph as a sub-editor, and anyone who has done the same will know what I'm talking about, is that you end up having a photographic memory. Like, if you read a paper, you don't just read the paper, you don't just flip the pages. I mean, I can tell you that, hey, I saw that report on whatever, the bus falling off in Pahalgaon. I saw that report on page 6 of the Telegraph. It's a single column and it's on your left. I can actually recall photographically what and where that particular news item is. So that's another skill that one learned, and it's something that has stayed with me 40 years on. And as for subbing and fixing copy, I mean, it's a terrible curse. Somebody sends me a love letter and I end up subbing it and seeing if the English is correct. So that can be a problem. But that is how the training has stayed with me. So my basic point is, this course that you are offering and the course that the students will take, that should not just be another course. It will not be just another course. I'm sure it'll have elements that will be life changing. And the potential is unlimited. I mean, what are the things that you can do once you have learned copy editing, once you have learned how to edit audio, video? Once you can do that, the kind of job market that opens up is huge. I mean, why only journalism? Journalism is just one of the many, many things that you could be doing. It could be, communications, it could be public relations, it could be translations. That's another element that you could introduce, Dr. Bhattacharya, in your audiovisual classes, and that is voiceovers. Nowadays, increasingly, suddenly I find Audible is big. Audible books are huge. People are listening to books. People are listening to the news, often more than reading. Sometimes because attention spans are getting shorter and shorter, at least in the news business. I find that people are listening more often than reading. You'll often find newspaper articles or articles on the digital space now, which come with the option, listen to this article. So that's another element perhaps that could be introduced, how to do voiceovers. It's something that's going to be demanded in the future. I believe that 20th century was all about science and technology, but this century is going to be about communicating ideas. And that is where a mastery of playing with words, pictures, sounds is so important. I believe the battles of the future will be fought maybe in cyberspace, but for a resource that rests in the brain of man. It will be a battle for the mind. And to join that battle, the skills being offered by your course are critical. Like I said again, when journalism is just one thing, it is a growth area. I'm definitely most excited about how journalism is now, breaking wide open from existing formats like newspaper, television, digital. There's so many new things happening. It's, you know, but again, the basic skill of how to write, how to edit, that is going to be there forever. You're going to need that. I mean, look at all that a journalist has to do today to be on television, for instance. It looks very exciting, a journalist running around reporting on a horrible situation on television. For instance, say when I was out there in Medni Lalgor, say, running after the Maoists. I mean, it was so taxing because it's not only that you were in this very horrible space where, you know, there could, I mean, I don't want to be dramatic, but you could be shot at, and it has happened. You have that situation and you are reporting over there. You are also at the same time writing for the web. You are at the same time tweeting out the news. You are at the same time putting out pictures on Instagram. You are at the same time thinking of headlines, putting out headlines. You are composing a tweet. It's not easy, and you're doing that all in that real time situation, where you could actually have a bullet come and hit you. So, when a journalist is under that kind of pressure, you better be equipped. You cannot be bumbling around trying to figure out how to tweet and so on. So these skills are going to be very, very important for anyone who wants to be in the business of communicating in the coming years. We've done it all on the run, you know, not sitting in office on a computer or anything of the kind, but this one little phone. Not just journalism, all the other fields that are opening up today in the job space, they all require this kind of you know on the run kind of ability to do things. And you could you have to learn these skills. You have to know these skills. I mean, even YouTube channels. I mean, look at the way they are. Many, many journalists are opening their own YouTube channels, which are hugely successful. I mean, I don't want to name one and leave out another, but in Bengali, in Hindi, in English, and every other language, there are multiple channels that are coming up, and they're all doing a great job. There is a danger, of course. There's a danger in all this, and that is the business of fake news. I mean, that growth of that is exponential. And every other day, journalists are discussing the huge problem of fake news that we are seeing all around us. Just recently, I saw the other day in Bangladesh, there were protests about the price rise of petrol. It had gone up to something like 150 rupees suddenly, almost doubled. So there were huge protests in that country, and newspapers and television channels were reporting the protests. But suddenly, out on Twitter, there was a video which was so violent, the Twitter claimed that this was also protests by Bangladeshis in Dhaka against petrol price rise, and the action by the police on them, tear gas, lathi, firing. It was so frightening. But the pictures that I saw, the video that was being used, that looked very familiar to me. So I checked, and I found that the video of absolutely brutal police crackdown on this protest on the streets of Dhaka was dated 2013. 2013, when a particular radical Islamic group called Hifazat-e-Islami, they had started protests about something or the other, and police had cracked down. That video was suddenly now turned into a petrol price hike protest. So this fake news is such a huge danger, and I cannot let this occasion go without also telling you about another one. Fake news that is putting country against country. There was a just when Sri Lanka was getting on the boil, at that time suddenly there was a tweet, apparently from our external affairs minister's Twitter handle. So Mr. S. Jaishankar, he had apparently tweeted, and this was completely fake, just I'm repeating that. He had tweeted, why doesn't Sri Lanka just become another state in India, and we will take care of all its economic crisis? Now, can you imagine what that can do, to relations between countries, between India and Sri Lanka? It was completely fake. It was completely mischievous, and India had to really go out of its way to tell Sri Lanka so that it was complete nonsense. But the fake news factories are growing, not just in India but worldwide. So that's a problem that exists. And who better to fight this problem than youngsters who are equipped to deal and detect fake news? And that is another benefit that a course like this could actually give to the students. Students who will recognize how you can edit pictures, how you can edit audio and visual to make fake news. And once the students know that, when they go out into the world, at least they'll be able to stop it, identify fake news, detect it, stop it. Fake news and fact checkers are becoming a big area of growth. I mean, it is astonishing how much developed countries are investing, governments are investing in trying to prevent the menace of fake news. It is another opportunity for students with skills in editing, audio, and visual. It's an opportunity of growth for students who probably undertake courses like the ones that you are offering. So, opportunities endless. I'm very glad that you are doing this and bringing students, familiarizing students with these issues. I have no doubt that your course will not be completely theoretical, but also expose students who are going to join up to the realities of what's happening in this whole world of audio-visual news, fake news, or whatever it is. The only other thing that I want to say after this is, we are all unfortunately so driven by finding a job after we graduate. I mean, I just feel bad that sometimes, just studying for studying's sake to learn, knowledge, the beauty of knowledge, to appreciate that. That is something that is probably going away. And I hope your course will certainly keep in mind that sometimes it is just the beauty of knowledge that needs to be imparted to students. The beauty of how to write perfectly, the beauty of how to edit a picture perfectly, how to edit words, pictures, sounds. You may not turn into a master graphics artist for the next big Spider-Man film, but you could be Steve Jobs. I mean, I was trying to, sort of figure out what to say to students today. And one of the speeches that I heard was by Steve Jobs, and the late Steve Jobs. And I'm not going to go away without telling you the story of how Mr. Steve Jobs, founder of Apple, Mac, the iPod, and the iPhone, and suddenly he decided to drop out of college. And he was going to some college called Rees College, and then he decided to drop out. And the system there allowed him to drop in to other classes that he wanted to do, other classes than the subjects he was studying. And he decided to do calligraphy, the art of writing, in different fonts, different typefaces. It was not his main interest, but it was just something beautiful he thought. So he decided to do those classes, and here is what he had to say about it. I decided to take a calligraphy class to learn how to do it. I learned about serif and sans serif typefaces, about varying the space between different letter combinations, about what makes great typography great. It was beautiful, historical, artistically subtle in a way that science can't capture. And I found it fascinating None of this had any hope of any practical application in my life. But 10 years later, when we were designing the first Macintosh computer, it all came back to me. And we designed it all into the Mac. It was the first computer with beautiful typography. If I never dropped in on that single course in college, the Mac would never have multiple typefaces or proportionally spaced fonts. Since Windows just copied Mac, it is likely no personal computer would have them. This is technical if you don't know what calligraphy is and fonts are and how beautiful they can be. But there's another person I listened to before coming to talk to you, and that was Miss J.K. Rowling, of course, of Hogwarts and Harry Potter fame. And she delivered this wonderful speech at Harvard, where she said that one of the things that you have to learn is don't be afraid to fail. But that apart, she went on to talk about an experience that had no direct relation with her writing Harry Potter. She went and spent several months working at Amnesty, where she was regularly dealing with refugees who had fled some troubled country or the other and come to take shelter here in London as a refugee. She had listened to their stories and she had talked to them, seen or heard of the most brutal side that the world would ever show to these people, the brutalities of the world. And she also saw the beauty of people beginning to relive their lives once they were in some kind of shelter. Now, this had no direct connection with her Harry Potter books, or did they? Somewhere along the line, that experience definitely translated into those books that this entire generation of children have grown up with. The Harry Potter books, the Hogwarts School, the Dumbledores, and the Voldemorts. So, again, an experience that had no direct relation to writing those books for children, but J.K. Rowling absorbed them and used them. They are reflected, they are there in her books. So, Steve Jobs, J.K. Rowling, and many, many other people. One big inspiration that I have taken from them, and I hope I will be able to leave that with you, is students, dear students, keep learning and experiencing new things. You never know how or when it may make an impact in the future, in your life and on the world. So, on that note, thank you so much for having me and congratulations on launching this wonderful course. I hope the students will enroll and learn how something as fascinating as playing with words, pictures, and sounds can be life changing. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for that very fascinating talk. I was thinking about what your professor said, writing to words. Writing to a picture.
That's
That
right.
is really, really fantastic. All right. Now we have a question. Someone is asking us when the course will start. Well, the classes will start from Saturday the 20th, uh, and Moni Deepadi is one of the resource persons. And I'm sure if you don't want to miss our class, join up. We still have some places that are vacant, so please join up. Right now, thank you. Then, thank you for being here with us. And all right, this is where we end this inaugural session. And we hope to see you again later on in class. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Bye bye.